friends, welcome to our call all about personality types and how to talk to others. This is going to be such an amazing call. I am so excited for you. My name is Tracy Black, and then we're going to have our co-host today, Ashley Diet and Christina Tuff, and they're going to be talking about a couple of different things. One is the enneagram personality types, and then the color personalities. So make sure you've got your notes ready so that you can learn and really, just absorb all the information. So just to kind of give you a little recap, the Enneagram is 9 different personality types. And as she's going to talk about some different books that she recommends, and she really kind of delves in about motivations, the types of personalities, how to kind of interact with them, which is really, really cool. And then Christina's going to go into detail about the color personalities. There's only 4 color personalities. So sometimes when you're kind of on the go and maybe you don't have time to kind of think, oh my gosh, 9 different personality types, the color personality is kind of like a really quick way to assess what their personality type is, so that you can then figure out how to talk to them. So I apologize because we started this video about 10 minutes in, just because we were having some technical difficulties. So you're going to hear Ashley pick up right about talking about the Enneagram 4 type. So she's going to go through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then she's going to round back over to 1 and 2. So we're missing number 3, and I wanted to make sure that you had some of this information. I am actually an Enneagram 3 myself, and so is Ashley. So she'll talk about it a little bit during the call, but in a nutshell, a 3 is pretty easy to identify. The 3 is like your achiever, okay? So they're number 3. And they're very sort of success-oriented, driven, image conscious, right? They're like the ones who want to win, who want to get the straight A, right? They want to have that leadership role. If you're familiar with personality colors, they're usually like the red, right? So in a nutshell, they're very self-assured, ambitious, competent, energetic. They can be status conscious, highly driven for advancement, diplomatic, poised, but again, because they're thinking about what others think of them, sometimes that can be kind of like the downside of the 3. So a basic fear of a 3 is being worthless, right? Because they put so much value on their worth. Their basic desire is to be worthy, right? And to be valuable. You'll notice on the personality types, right? A 3 may lean towards the 2, right? So if they lean in towards the 2, they're the charmer, they're very outgoing, right? Or if they lean towards the 4, they're gonna be like the professional, a little bit more introverted. Again, their key motivations is to impress others, to be distinguished, to have that attention. I think their 3s can be pretty easy to find. And when they're healthy, right, they are doing great things for the world. They're, doing great things for their business, for others. But sometimes when they're kind of going down that route of being unhealthy, right, they can be apathetic. Because it's sort of like you don't need me? All right, I'm out, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing. They're just like, okay, I'm not needed here, so I'm gone, right? Right. Versus someone who's more like a 2, who wants to help all the time. The other thing with the 3s that can be a little bit of their downfall is they can be like workaholics, right? They will put everything to the side because they want to focus on their work. So it's like work, 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 right? Or they're probably the ones who are more likely to have just very high stress, high cortisol levels, right? Because they love to work, they want to achieve. High caffeine, they're the ones who always have a coffee in their hand. That could be other types as well, but that's usually kind of the sign of the 3 as well. So again, the benefit of learning about personality types and the color personalities is you can kind of pick out where you are, because you can then figure out, okay, where am I? Am I healthy? Am I average? Am I unhealthy in this? And what are some areas that I can personally work on? And again, Ashley is going to talk about some books that she recommends. But the other really cool thing is that you can kind of identify things in other people too. And, really when it comes down to it, whether you're looking at the Enneagram, which is 9 personality types, or the color personalities, which is 4 personality types. I think there's benefit in learning both, to be really honest, because sometimes you need to do a quick assessment and sometimes you need to delve in real deep. But it's really helpful to know what someone's basic motivation is, because when you understand their basic motivation, then you'll be able to know how to talk to them, right? Like how to encourage them, how to motivate them, because you'll know what intrinsically they want. So there's a lot of really added benefit into learning on all of this. And I will tell you, I am like an extroverted introvert. I don't know if there's anybody else who's like that. But I can be very introverted, but I feed off the energy of other people. And I will tell you, before I got into this business, before I got into Young Living, I took the Myers-Briggs, and they labeled me as like, because the test came back, I was the most introverted person next to the guy who worked in IT, who didn't make eye contact with people and stayed in his cube all day. So I can go that way, because when I'm like in the mode and I'm working, I'm like headphones on, boom, laser focused, and I will do it, right? So, I will tell you what's really cool about this business is that I was very introverted, and through this business, it really has helped me to not only, like, I really enjoy being with people, but like I feed off the energy of people and enjoy talking to people. And then after a while, I kind of like need to go back to my corner or back to my room or back to my space to kind of chill and like decompress. But I will tell you, like, this business has helped me to grow so much, because there was a time I'd be like, I don't know if I can people. I don't know if I can talk to them. What am I going to say? Like, I don't even know how to strike up that conversation. And so this is why this call is really going to be so beneficial to you. So wherever you are in this journey, whether you're like really introverted like me, right? And then you're kind of coming out of your shell, and now I'm like the extroverted introvert, or maybe you're already really gifted at this. You're already very extroverted. You do people so well. You know how to strike up a conversation with others. This call is also still really valuable because you can use it as a teaching tool for people on your team. Even if you're really gifted at talking to people, bringing people together, community, right? Like having those conversations, it's hard when you're really good at it, and then you have a team member like me who is not so good at it, and you're like, I don't know how to teach them how to be good at people. Show them this video, because they will learn, right, the basics of personalities and how to put it all together and how to talk to them. So stay tuned. You're going to hear Ashley pick this up talking about Enneagram 4. I just talked about Enneagram 3, right? And then you'll hear Christina Teff talking about the color personalities. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Thanks so much.
A lot of ones are, I'm not going to give it away, but a lot of threes are, and they match a lot of the other ways that you assess your personality, which is a simple way to look at it. Type 4, and keep typing in the chat. Like if you're like, I am that type, I would love to hear it and just interact in that way with each other and connect some more people that might be like you. This is the romantic individualist. So type 4s primarily live in their own imagination and in their feelings. They might be artistic or sensitive or creative. They're articulate and inspiring, or they can be moody and elitist and self-absorbed. So a core fear is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, flawed, or insignificant. Core desire, being unique, special, authentic. Core weakness, envy, feeling that they are tragically flawed. Something foundational is missing inside them, and others possess qualities that they lack. Core longing and the message that they want to hear spoken over them. You are seen and you're loved for who you are, and who you are is special and unique. So that is usually people, if you're 4, I'm saying this, I have noticed that people like know when they're 4. Most people are like, that is who I am. Like, I know that. And I should have said this when we were going through. It's really fun to think about the jobs, the traditional jobs that people fall into with each of these personalities. So a lot of ones are in the business world, run nonprofits, or lawyers and law. A lot of 2s are in the helping professions, traditional women-oriented jobs. I don't love to say that, but it's just true and how it is. I'm saying as in, we still would say helping professions like teaching, healthcare are going to be more women-dominated roles. 3s are going to be in politics, or they're going to be preachers, or they're going to be, there's another one that I always say for me that I laugh and it's super embarrassing. Oh, salespeople. So it's great. Number fours are usually in artistic fields. Fours are usually in artistic fields, but they don't tend to be the top of their field. And I want you to think about why. Because fours a lot of times are not, if you don't have the three wing, they're usually going to be like always trying to be individual and fighting themselves on that. And I love that because it's super interesting to think about and to navigate together with everyone. Yep, Casey, entrepreneurs. Yep. So number type fives, and this is interesting. Fives are probably, I've not met a lot of fives in our business, and I always want to because they're just like way smarter than I am, and I need more of them around me. So if you're a five, we need to be closer friends so you can make me a lot smarter, because I'm all about myself because I'm a three. So I'm just kidding. It's not funny. It's really not. This is the intellectual thinker. So a type five is a person who pulls back from the world and they observe what's happening around them. They prefer to live in their own mind, and they're wise, visionary, knowledgeable, or they're abstract, eccentric, and intellectually arrogant. So core fear for a five is being annihilated, invaded, or non-existing, being thought as incapable or ignorant, and having obligations placed on them by others. A core desire is to be capable and confident. A core weakness is the feeling that they lack inner resources, and that too much interaction depletes their inner resource. So think about that. Too much interaction depletes their inner resource because it's their inner resource that leads them to have that store of knowledge and that store of competence. So they hold on to their own resources, they minimize their own needs, and usually tend to be a little bit cut off from a lot of other people. Core longing. Your needs are not a problem. Your needs are not a problem. So always think about, if you actually said that to someone, it'd be like, all of your needs can be met. God can fulfill all your needs. A community is here to support you. Those kinds of things. All right, type six. Where are my sixes at? We tend to have a pretty good amount of sixes usually that are attracted to this business. Anybody? I'm just looking for y'all's comments. Bridget said, are those the ones who won't join? It is interesting because usually in a non-personal, like a not one-on-one or in a group setting, but if it's more like electronic communication, fives are going to be the questioners, and we're going to look at them as like contrarian, if that makes sense. So I don't even know if it's not they don't join. I think it's that the way, like for me, I perceive it a lot is that they don't like me or they don't want to work with me. And really they just like asking questions is their nature and how they find out. Yeah. I think it's interesting. All right. So sixes are the loyal guardian. Sixes are usually great friends. I love to preface it with that, because sixes are usually, because they're super loyal, trustworthy, courageous, effective. And when they're struggling, they actually become hyper vigilant and paranoid, and usually end up being cowardly, which would be the opposite of their natural way that they were created. Core fear is feeling fear itself, feeling without support or security, and being blamed, targeted, or physically abandoned. So this is a great one. As anybody here that doesn't know their personality type, if you go through a tunnel, I have two really close friends that are sixes, and when they go over a bridge or a tunnel, they always picture how they would get everyone out of their car before they would drown. And I'm like, what? Like, I never in my life, the first time one of them said that to me, I'm like, dude, I've never in my life thought about how I would get all my kids out of my car if it flipped over the side of the guardrails and went into the wall. Like, I've never thought of that. Never. And I went on a mission trip with a couple sixes, and I'm like, dude, they're fierce and protective, but they also the people that are like, if we all get our heads chopped off, here's what will happen. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I just say we're going to win and we're going to be awesome and nothing bad's going to happen. Like it's a really, really interesting. Yep. I love this. Yes, Casey, it's because you want to help. So two's motivation is a little bit different than a six in that. So core desire is to have guidance, security, and support. Core weakness is anxiety, scanning the horizon of life and trying to prevent negative outcomes, specifically playing worst case scenarios and remaining in a constant state of apprehension and worry. So core longing, this is a good one to remember. You're safe and secure. You're safe and secure. Safe and secure. Okay, a seven. Where are my sevens at? They're the party people. Sevens are the party people. They're the ones with vodka and their ninja. Just kidding. Maybe not. Just thought it would make someone else laugh. They're going to be most sevens are easy to identify as sevens because they're the most joyful of the 9 types. This is the entertaining optimist. So sevens love to plan and anticipate positive future events. They're always looking forward to the next thing in a positive way. They don't like to be limited. They want multiple choices for every occasion. They are well-rounded, affirming, and generous, or at their worst, they're self-focused, they're an escapist, and they have an insatiable appetite for excitement. Core fear for 7 is being in pain, limited, being bored, or missing out on something fun. Core desire is to be happy, content, and fully satisfied. Core weakness for 7 is gluttony. This is feeling an emptiness inside and having an insatiable desire to fill themselves up. And this could be with experiences or substances, and ignoring, like with that, is usually ignoring the actual gaping hole of whatever is actually missing. So core longing for 7 is you will be taken care of. Like you will be taken care of. You will be taken care of. So 7s in my personal life, I love it, love it, love it to be able to look at it this way. I usually can identify a 7 when they're people who don't want to analyze an event after. They just want to say what was good and go to the next thing, which is awesome. For anybody that's like me, that's awesome, because I'm like, cool, we don't have to talk about it. Like, that's great. Because in my head, I've already gone through why I suck 18,000 times, but I won't tell anyone that, so they will still think it's awesome. And 7s are like, no, like, what's the next thing we're going to do? How's it going to look? What's it going to work like? So a lot of you guys, how many of y'all are analyzing like your spouse or your kids? Be careful doing that, but it really is helpful. Because some of guys on here, I will help your life. I help your marital life. If you're like a 6 and you're married to a 7, right now you're like, thank you so much. I have always thought they were crazy. They don't want to commit to any plans. They have like 18 different things we're invited to, but we're not sure which one we're going to. They're trying to plan like a weekend getaway next weekend. I'm worried because there's a snowstorm coming. Like, it really, really helps the way you communicate and in your life. 7 here, curious about them. I love that, Katie. All right. So our next one, 8s. 8s get a bad rap. And it totally bothers me because type 8s and type 8 women are amazing, amazing leaders. So I want to say that before I read about it, because I tend to feel like people don't like to admit when they're an 8. I'm like, 8s are amazing. This is the protective challenger. 8s fear being weak, vulnerable, harmed. They create the image that they're strong and that they'll always prevail and that they're determined and committed to fight and protect themselves and the innocent. If they're not doing well, they're very vengeful, excessive, and destructive. The core fear for an 8 is being weak, powerless, harmed, or controlled. And they do not want to be left at the mercy of injustice or what they perceive to be injustice. Core desire is to protect themselves and those in their inner circle at all costs. Their core weakness is lust or excess. And so that's constant desire for control, constant desire for power, pushing themselves willfully on life and people to get what they desire within themselves. So core longing for an 8 is you will not be betrayed. You will not be betrayed. You will not be betrayed. And a lot of what you'll see in those parts of 8s and 1s, like when they are not as healthy, you might get confused with those sometimes. But if you take the test and kind of analyze it yourself, you'll hopefully see the differences. Yeah. Allison, so she thought you were an 8. What are you? I know. I already, I just try not to analyze people, but I figured that. It's fine. You are good, Allison. See, now that you know what I'm saying, just use it right back. You were good. You were good. I wasn't being funny, but I mean, do y'all really realize we all want to hear our core, like we want to hear it spoken over us all the time. Whatever our like core longing is, you like want it to always be awesome. So a good flip side, again, I know I'm talking about myself, but I think it helps you to hear someone else say it. So for me, I like to achieve things, but I am so much better if somebody compliments something about me than like, I saw that you did, how awesome is that? And I'm like, of course, here's why. As a 3, I'm like, of course it was awesome, because I'm not gonna post it if it's not awesome. Do you understand? Like there's how that works. So same thing with a 1. A 1 is going to want you to tell them how great something is with the detailed parts of it. Like if they write a testimonial or a post, like they want to know what about it is good because they just put their all into that. And a 2 would much more like you to post something, or 6, like about like comment on their post and be like, I feel you, girl. Like I've been there before. I'm praying for you. How can I help your family? And lots of words, right? Yep. Interesting. Is everybody thinking about how they comment on people's stuff now? If you're someone, that'll tell you a lot about how you are, right? Like 2s don't copy and paste, like happy birthday. Like they would probably never write like happy birthday. That's it. It'd probably be like personal. This is fun. Okay, nines. Who said they were a nine? I write that. There's a lot of nines on our team. At least we've definitely had a lot of nines, and I love them because most nines you don't like. The other person usually can't point out and say you're a nine or not, because usually peacemakers, which are nines, um, are people who actually tend to not blend in because they're quiet or timid, but blend in because they are going to be the best listeners in the room. They are going to be the best listeners in the room. This is the peaceful meditator, type nine. So type nines are people who are receptive to the environment and they downplay their own presence. They can be loving and down to earth and modest and trusting, or they can be stubborn and lazy and asleep to themselves and what they want. So a core fear for a nine is being in conflict or tension, feeling shut down and overlooked, or losing connection with others because they believe the other person, what? Cut them off. It's usually not that they believe they did something to offend them. It's they believe the other person just cut them off. So the core desire is having inner stability and peace of mind. Core weakness for nine is sloth. This is remaining in an unrealistic and idealistic world in order to keep the peace. So remaining easygoing, not being disturbed by anger, falling asleep to your passions, abilities, desires, and needs, and merging with others instead of having your own core of who you are coming out. Core longing for a nine is your presence matters. So don't get that wrong. A core nine doesn't just want peace. They want to know that them being around matters. Their presence is desired. They're invited. They're cared for. I mean, think about all those things that most of us would get wrong if we didn't really study what they were all about. So that is a super short summary. But the other thing with it is that there's growth pathways for all of them. And these are called really arrows, or places we go when we are healthy and places we go when we're unhealthy. And I don't want to dive too deeply into that, but what helps with that, and again, easiest because I'll use my own personality type. When I'm unhealthy, I go to the unhealthy part of nine, which would be apathy and removing myself. Does that make sense? And I see it. Like I do it all the time where it's like there's a whole bunch of people and I don't feel needed. I'm like, that's fine. And I don't, there's no, it's again, the motivation would be anger, would be, it's fine. When I'm healthy, I go to the healthy part of a six, which is loyal, trustworthy, and secure. Super interesting. So if you are, does everybody follow me? Because if you know your own personality type, you can see how this goes. It's basically going to go, because it's 9 numbers. So when you're a 1, you go, this is super fun. When you're a 1, actually not use a 1, I'll use a 7 because there's probably more 7. Yeah. When you're 7, when you're unhealthy, you go to the unhealthy parts of 1. So you become overly perfectionistic and detail oriented and angry. And then when you're healthy, you actually pull from the healthiest parts of a 5, which means you're introspective, ask good questions, and do details. So I just think it's all super interesting, and I can't wait for you to dive in. So Chelsea, I post it in Dream Team probably every 2 months. I post it in there and I'm like, here, and I'm going to post, I've been saving, there's a post I have for y'all that another diamond friend did on every enneagram type. She had someone lead a call. So I mean, that's like 9 hours of calls. I don't expect you to listen to that. But your own personality, you might want to listen into it. And then for me, The Road Back to You is a book that I think is awesome. I am going to post actually in the comments, or when I post the replay so other people can have it, I'm going to post a list of resources that include some Instagram handles to follow, because I think that's a really helpful thing. And then for most of us, I think it's really what Chelsea just said. You communicate with members. I don't like have every member take it, but if it's someone I'm working with, especially doing events, like in-person events, especially, I need to know what their personality is. Because if we're trying to plan this event and they are making, here's the thing, for me, if they're making spreadsheets and they're like real worried, I need to know what their personality is. Because that for me, I'm going to like offend them because I'm not going to be worried. And I'm like not going to have a spreadsheet. I'm just going to kind of pile all this stuff in a pie. And they need to know about me. I need to know about them, so that our perception isn't, we don't care. Because that's what ends up happening, right? We perceive that someone else as not caring when they don't care the way we do. We want other people to care for us the way that we care for ourselves, when really this has just taught me so much that the glorious, beautiful creation of God is that we're all different and unique, and we're not stuck in where he made us, but we're always growing to be something better, and we can help others do the same. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want to make sure that I'm going to stay on here just so that's weird. I'm going to stay on here. I'm just going to hand it off to Christina to talk and present. And I also love this. So Christina is my amazing sponsor and has been doing this business for, I mean, is it 7 years yet?
I feel like it's been 7, 8 years. I don't remember exactly, but
Well,
yeah.
it'll be 7 for me in March. So I was like, is it 7?
And it's about the same for me too. So
Yep.
yeah.
I thought so.
And Ashley, so we didn't start the recording until you were on like just starting Enneagram type 3. So I don't know if you want to go back right now and just maybe quickly go over 1 and 2 just for the replay, people listening to the replay, or if we want to do it at the end. What works better for you? Like quick, just like really quick, brief overview, like less than 5 minutes of Enneagram 1 and 2.
If y'all don't care, I'll just go with it. An Enneagram type 1 that we'll start with. So 1, I also love that number 1 or type 1s go with this description because they like to be what? Most type 1s like to be perfect and like to be just and right, like to be correct. So a type 1 is called the perfectionist sometimes, but also I love that they reflect the goodness of God. So good, it would be good. They're the moral perfectionist. So a type 1 is conscientious and sensible and ethical and responsible and idealistic and self-disciplined. They also tend to be very orderly and they feel personally obligated to improve themselves and the world around them. So core fear is being wrong or bad or evil or even inappropriate. A core desire is to have integrity, to be good, to be accurate, and to be right. Core weakness is resentment or anger. And a lot of times that core weakness comes out where it's justified to them. They justify the anger, and this represses and becomes resentment. And that comes from this dissatisfaction with themselves. And type 1s have a really, really strong inner critic, an inner voice that's always telling them what they didn't get right. So when they have outer voices saying what they didn't get right, it tends to really magnify for them. So core longing for a 1 is you are good. You are good. You are good. You are made in the image of God and he created you good. You're good. Really interesting to think of it that way. Type 2 is a supportive advisor, also known as a helper. So 2s are seen as people who see the world through relationships and interconnectivity, and they define themselves through their service to others. They can be selfless and loving and giving, or they can be dependent and prideful and manipulative. So a core fear for a 2 is being rejected and unwanted, being thought of as worthless, needy, inconsequential, dispensable, or unworthy of love. A core desire for a 2 is being appreciated, loved, wanted. A core weakness is pride, denying their own needs and emotions while using their amazing intuition to discover and focus on emotions and needs of other people while ignoring or downplaying the needs of themselves. So many 2s will say how grateful they are for others and truly ignore their own desires and needs until they become to a place where they realize that they're focusing on others more than themselves. And so a core longing for a 2 is you are wanted and you are loved. You are wanted, you are loved because you are you, not what you do for me. Like that's a great way of thinking about how you can talk to a 2. 2s also are going to be people who are going to be very loyal, like 6s. So those 2, if you don't take a test and you kind of look at these, you might get confused. Like you might get a little confused between what you are for a 2 and a 6. I love, and that's the last thing I'll say, I love what Allison said about when you hear an explanation of your own type, you should kind of resonate with it and feel like, okay, when I took the test, had friends staring at me and they all thought I was a much more fun person. They all thought I was a 7 and I wanted to be a 7, but I'm not. I knew I wasn't. And it like felt really, I was like when I was answering the questions, I was like I was like clicking on them and like looking at my friends. I'm like, don't look at my answers. And it was really interesting for me because then once I started digging deeper and learning that a lot of this is like how we perceive our childhood. And please hear me. It doesn't say how our childhood actually was. The way in which we perceive our childhood shapes our personality so much because we can perceive something very differently than a sibling or than a parent, but our perception is our reality and it actually molds us into this type that we actually view the world. It's our worldview from then on out. So thanks for hanging out and listening to that. I hope it helps you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Ashley. I learned so much. I feel like I always need that refresher, even though I've read that book, The Road Back to You. It's been a little bit, so I kind of need that, like, oh yeah, that's a good quality of a 4 or whatever. Um, so that was amazing. I love the Enneagram, but I also love the color personalities. And I love the color personalities because there's just 4. And so, um, while the Enneagram kind of focuses in more on like, each distinct, like yellows typically tend to be like 9s and 2s and stuff like that on the Enneagram scale. Whenever I am quickly getting to know someone for the first time and I don't know them on a real personal level, maybe just through like a Zoom call or quickly meeting someone in a store, I do not think of them in the terms of Enneagram. I tend to like assess them in terms of color because to me that's a little bit easier, just for like a quick like just a quick interaction. Sorry, of course my baby would wake up when it's my turn to talk. Okay. And so I love the colors, and when we talk colors we talk yellow, blue, green, and red. And my favorite thing about that is how easy it is to kind of hone in on someone and what their personality is. So we're going to go through that and kind of just talk about what your color is, what other people in your family's color is. It'll probably be pretty easy to pick out your kiddos and your spouse, and the easiest ways to talk about them. So let's talk to them, not about them. So let's talk about yellow. The first one is the yellow personality, and I'm gonna just pull up. I have my notes here. So the strengths of a yellow: they love to help. They fall on the Enneagram of like the 9 or the 2, or 9 or a 1. They're usually kind, agreeable, purpose-driven, loyal, honest. They're the ones that love small talk. So when you're talking to them, they want to chit chat with you before you just get straight to the point. They want to catch up with you, talk about your family, how was your day. So when you're making like your calls to your team or you're talking to someone that's a yellow, you're going to want to ask them about their family. They may kind of be offended if you just get straight to the point and don't even bother asking them, hey, how's your kiddo? I saw on Facebook last week your kid had the flu. How's he doing? Like they want you to follow up and care about them, and they like small talk. They like things like that. They're usually pretty social as far as they're good at having relationships with people and getting conversations going and asking questions. They're good at being interested in others, and they're good at being good listeners. They are the ones that are driven by helping others, and they're motivated to what can I do to help others? So when they're told like this is a really good cause and we're volunteering, we're helping, like that, the red flag or the flags go up in the yellows and they're like, yes, I'm in, I want to do this. But some of the things that are weaknesses in yellow, sorry, I'm gonna bounce. The weaknesses in yellows, sometimes they're overly sensitive. They don't take criticism well. They can bottle up anger to the point where they maybe feel like martyrs, or they can bottle up repressed feelings, frustrations, and then they're the type that all of a sudden then it just erupts later. Like it just builds up and builds up. These typically are people pleasers, so be careful not to take advantage of your yellows, because you might be, they might be very agreeable and be like, sure, let's do it. And then all of a sudden they just feel really taken advantage of and they're not happy. They're not driven by competitiveness. That's not their motivation. So sometimes competitiveness is even a turnoff to them. But they can also be a little judgmental. So, because they kind of tend to think that they're better than others. And I am speaking that from a yellow personality, I can say that. And that's something, like just working through the bad parts of my personality. Okay. They have a hard time selling products and services to friends and family because they feel this internal battle of somehow it's wrong to sell to your friends and family. So that is some things to be aware of if you are a yellow or if you're working with a yellow. And here's just some more tips on how to talk to them. So they appreciate not being in your face, like super direct. They want you to be kind of calm and quiet and just like sweet talking to them. That's kind of how they like it. They enjoy conversation that isn't being rushed. They desire others to be honest and authentic, which I feel like that's every personality type that we're going to talk about. Everybody can spot inauthenticness a mile away, but yellows especially. Um, and the best way to accomplish, or the best way to communicate to them is to show them how they can help other people improve their lives. And personally as a yellow, I like to just be told what to do sometimes. I don't like to just be like beat around the bush type, like, or like, maybe if I tell her this, she'll figure it out. No, just tell me what to do. I don't mind. so, um, so that's a yellow. Let's see, who here is a yellow? You're a purple, Laura. I am too, actually. I totally feel you on that. I feel like I'm equal 2 parts. Okay, so let's talk about, you're a yellow, Tess. Yellows are great. Okay, so let's talk about greens. So greens are going to be your analytical ones, your planners, your logical, loyal people that are very methodical. They tend to need to understand the why or the how of how things work and why they're going to be doing them. So like they're the ones that are going to want your essential oil desk reference, like not even the pocket reference, they want the desk reference. Like they want to look up all the studies in PubMed. They want, all the things. So they're the ones that want the graphs, the numbers. They're the ones that they don't like being in the spotlight. They can be very competitive, but they also love perfection more than that. And they love everything to be, they're like usually the type A personalities. I forget what it is on the Enneagram. Maybe is that like a 6-ish? People in the Enneagram that are 6s might fall into the green category. I forget about that though. So 6s are awesome because they are your organized ones. Your ones that are going to have your spreadsheet for everything, and they love facts and numbers and graphs. Sometimes greens though get analysis paralysis because they want to know everything about everything before they get started. And a lot of times it's not the best way to do this kind of business. So they often can't move forward. Sorry, my baby spit up everywhere. They can't move forward until they have all the information. And I mean, come on, I've been in this business for 7 years and I still don't have all the information. So if we waited till we had all the information, we would never do it. Let's see. So they can also be highly judgmental and will mentally berate others and internally consider themselves as superior. Greens do not work well under pressure, and they often take a very long time to complete tasks. They do not like change and appreciate order in their life and cannot understand why others do not feel the same way. So that is a green. So the way you're going to talk to a green, the way you communicate with a green, if you have a green on your team, is greens appreciate people who give them time to come to a conclusion on their own rather than force them to make a conclusion. So these are the people, when you're trying to enroll them, that might say, I need to go home and do the research. And they legitimately mean that. They're not just saying that as an excuse because they don't want to buy. They really want to. They just want to make sure they have all the information first. Same thing with the business. They want to make sure, is this really the best business opportunity for me, kind of thing. They like for people to be direct with them, but they also don't really want to be spoon-fed the information. They just want you to point them in the right direction so they can do the research themselves. So greens are amazing. They're your really smart ones on the team that are going to have all the information. And I always love to point to greens and be like, do you know the answer to that? Because I don't. So who's a green? Raise your hand if you're a green. Anybody? Allison, I see your hand is raised. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about reds. Reds are very driven. They are assertive, they're direct, they're confident, and they're very goal-oriented. They're often very visionaries. Like they're the ones that are the dreamers that can just see the vision and run with it, and there's nothing stopping them. So that's awesome about reds, and reds are usually very successful. They like to take risks. They love to be challenged. Anything that's a challenge, they're going to go for it. So like you have the big challenge in your group, you're going to do like, who can get the most enrollments this month? Well, it's probably going to be your red that's going to get it because they're like, oh, that's me, I got it. They love the challenges. They're the ones that are really great in leadership roles, and they're good self-starters. They like to get things done, and they have great follow-through on projects. and they're often viewed as overachievers. So this can be a good thing or a bad thing, but in this scenario, we're going to say it's a good thing. They're overachievers. They usually have pretty thick skin, and they're usually fine. The ones that they're usually good at dealing with confrontation, and they're able to accept change well. But a weakness of a red is that a lot of times they can be impatient, maybe even a little aggressive. Um, and they're known to feel superior than others. Are you seeing a trend? All of us kind of tend to feel like we're a little more superior with our personality than others. And they think that their way is right, and they can sometimes come off as arrogant. So that is kind of whenever a red is in their like not so healthy state, like Ashley was talking about, healthy state versus not healthy state. Um, Reds can often change directions too fast and make snap decisions without thinking it through. Their competitive edge can get in the way of being a team player. So sometimes you just gotta be careful with Reds. Sometimes they can get too competitive. Um, let's see, the way to talk to a red, or just the way you can apply this to your business, is reds really appreciate it when you can get right to the point, and you can tell them how something is going to benefit them. How is this going to help them earn more money? How is this going to help you? They want to know, how is this going to benefit me? And if they can see the vision, then they're going to go for it. So you can recruit a red by asking them for advice on how you should run your business, or how they would run their business. That is a good way to maybe approach a red, because they're gonna indirect suggestions work best with them. They're gonna really take that to heart, and they're gonna run with that. So who here is a red? Reds are awesome. Reds like challenge. Yes, we do have a lot of yellows. Renee, you're a greenish reddish. Yeah. Okay, so that's awesome. Now we're going to talk about blues. So blues, some of their strengths are, these are the fun ones, the bubbly ones. They're talkative. They're the optimistic ones. I consider the Enneagram 7 to kind of be on the blue. Oh, I think I skipped. I feel like 3s kind of fit into the red category a little bit. I'm not sure about all the others. I'd have to go back and learn, but 7 fits in the Enneagram of a blue. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be, if you're a blue, you're a 7 or anything like that, but it just kind of tends to kind of flow together. But blues can often forget, let's see. Oh, sorry. They're the ones that like to be trendy. They're creative. They're enthusiastic. I'm going to mute you real quick. Let's see. You can spot a blue because they're usually the life of the party. They're usually really happy on the outside. They're very gregarious. They love to meet new people. They're the fun ones. If you're gonna have a party and a fun time, then they're gonna be the ones that are there, and you want to have a lot of blues on your team. I'm just gonna say that. At least me personally, I love having blues because they just make things more fun. I don't know. I mean, don't you guys feel like that? If you've ever been around a blue, you're like, oh, this is just so much more fun. Okay, so some weaknesses of a blue, though, are that they can often forget that they can maybe dominate the conversation. Sometimes it's hard to get a word in with a blue because they have such a dominating conversation. They want to be the life of the party. They're generally pretty forgetful. Blues can get so involved in what they're doing creatively that they forget what their goal is, and they forget to get to the thanks. They forget what their goal is, and they forget where they're headed. They get bored really easily. Let's see. They usually are the ones that like music playing in the background. They're the ones that get distracted really easily. Okay, so some ways to talk to blues. Blues are amazing because they are always giving people encouragement, or people feel encouraged whenever you're around blues. So they also in turn like the encouragement. So encourage your blues, give them compliments, give them lots of praise. They love it because of course they like the attention on them. And it's best for people to share by using stories to hold their attention. So if you're teaching a class to somebody, telling stories rather than just telling them facts like we've done this entire class is a really good way to keep a blues mind captured. just like that whole concept, facts tell, stories sell, right? Like blues that really resonates with blues. If you tell blues about like someone, like a prospect for the business, or even for just oils and getting a membership, that we have a huge community where we have tons of fun, and we are always doing giveaways in our groups, and it's always silly and whatever. We have a huge big community, and we're always getting together doing things. That's gonna really make your blues like light up and be like, oh really, that sounds fun. They like the community aspect of things. They want to be together, and they love anything that's fun, meetings, gatherings, some things like that. So all of this is great. Who are our blues here? Raise your hand if you're a blue. Bridget, you're a red, blue. You love to laugh. Phyllis is a green, yellow. Those are awesome. Yellow, blue. Chelsea, me too. I'm a yellow, blue. About 50-50 of both. And you can have, so with the color personalities, you're going to have a primary color and then a secondary color. And there's different tests or different ways you can just do color personality. I just got this information from Jacob Adamo's website. And this is actually, I just Googled Jacob Adamo, and he was the inventor of the color personality, not of this particular one. And it's 31oils.com is where I'm getting my information. And there's actually a test that you can take, and I can send the link whenever Ashley posts the replay. I can post the link to this test so you can take it if you're not sure. And this is one that I feel like is easier to hone in on really quickly and do a quick little 5-minute test so you can figure it out. At least for me with Enneagram, I had to read the entire book before I decided what I was. So it's a little bit more specific. Okay, but both are amazing. So with all that being said, since we just have a few minutes left, I didn't want to leave this on how to talk to other people without mentioning some of these things, because even though where's the replay posted, we'll repost it in the Let's Be Frank group. I didn't want to leave this class without talking about how to talk to others in general, just like whenever you're, just some tips, things that we already know, but things that work generally for every personality type, right? Because we have to get to know people before we can know their personality. Well, how do we even talk to those people if we don't even know them? So raise your hand if you've heard of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you heard of the book, raise your hand if you've read it. It was a book written like the 1930s, and it's a very old-timey book. If you listen to it, it's an old man reading it, but it is like tried and true concepts that are still true today, because let's be real, human nature has not changed, and we all still respond the same way, even though it's been almost 100 years, 90 years since the books come out. So here are some key points that I'm just going to drop with you. You can write these down really fast in less than 5 minutes, but ways to talk to people, some good tips so you can get to know them and know their personality. The first way to talk to people is by not talking to people. Not talking is the best way. And what I mean by that is by listening. So asking them questions and being genuinely interested is the best way you're going to learn about someone as quick as possible. And the way you do that is you can just, I think I saw someone mention above the acronym FORM. And you literally, if you can't remember questions to ask people, go through this acronym, FORM. The first one stands for family. You're going to ask about someone's family. You can be like, hey, literally, it can be someone that's checking you out at the grocery store, and you can do this in 2 minutes. And you can be like, hey, how are you? Are you having a good day? Do you like your job here? Do you have kids? Are they in school? What does your spouse do? Are you married? Like, you just ask them questions and keep asking them things about their family. Where do their kids go to school? How old are they? Things like that. Do they like that? Keep asking them questions based on their answers to you. Just keep on getting, into those deeper levels of conversation with them. If you've run out of things to talk about with their family, be like, so do you like your job here? Have you ever worked anywhere else? Things like that. Ask them about their job. Ask them about what they love to do for, or what their favorite job has been, or this or that. If you've run out of questions, ask about that. The next is R for recreation. What do you love to do? Do you like to go to the movies? Of course, these days, not as much stuff's open. So like they're probably not doing a whole lot, but you can be like, hey, before the shutdown, what did you like to do? Did you like to go on vacations? This and that. M stands for your message. After all of that has been talked about, then you can maybe ask them like, hey, are you on Facebook? I'd love to get to know you, or whatever, things like that. Like say, hey, I'd love to connect with you. Maybe you have something for them. Maybe they've complained about their job and they can't stand it. And you can be like, hey, I couldn't help but notice that you were really happy with your job and I have a job that I love. Do you want to connect on Facebook? I could help you with that. Something along those lines. I wouldn't say it just like that, but I'm just trying to do this in a 5-minute period. But you're going to be more casual about it and a little bit less awkward. But it really, once you practice it a lot, it just comes out so smoothly. So it's FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and then your message, or your way you're going to connect with them to eventually give them your message. But you're going to want to resist the urge to like word vomit all over them and be like, oh, well, in their first sentence to you, they talk about how their kids were sick. And then you'd be like, well, I have thieves oil for you if you wanted to put that on their feet, blah, blah. No, just let them talk. You don't have to give them your options right away. And just listen. People will trust you when you listen. I'm going to tell you a quick story and then I'm done. But I was on an airplane, just like a 1-hour flight. And I really had every intention of just sitting there to myself because I'm a mom of 4. I was 3 at the time, but I did not really feel like talking to anybody. I just wanted to kind of veg on the airplane and quiet by myself. But there was this lady and I just kind of, I don't know why, I just was like, I have to talk to her. And so I put my book up and I just was like, just decided I was going to ask her, how is she? How's her day today? It's easy when you're on an airplane. It's not awkward to be like, do you live here? Are you visiting or whatever? Just trying to figure out, what they're doing in your town or where they're going. And I just realized I have spit up all over me. So I'm sorry. But I just asked her where she was from. And then I started asking her about her family. And I literally asked her questions the entire hour we were on our flight. And I ended up getting, at the end of she ended up giving me her phone number, and we contacted after that, and we talked quite a bit because she wanted to know more about oils and more about the business and all the things. And I would have never walked away from that hour-long plane ride with getting someone's personal information, like I knew where she lived and all this stuff, had I just been like, hey, are you interested in oils, about this business? I asked her, I got to know her. And because I spent the time getting to know her, for whatever reason, she trusted me to give me her personal information. So, I could have been anybody, but because I asked her tons of questions, she really trusted me. And so I feel like that is your jumping off point to getting to know then people's personalities. Asking these questions will help you kind of narrow down their personality color, so then you can talk to people better. So anyway, that's all I had. Ashley, do you have anything else you want to add, or are we done for the day? Yeah, the form system is great, Laura. Yes, read some books about it. Chelsea, I will post in, once the replay is posted, I'll post the information where I got all the person color personality information, so you can take the test and you can figure out what you are. You can send your members to it as well. So thank you guys. Does anybody have any questions? I think Ashley is probably also on her diamond call, so she's probably not even listening right now. So I'm going to just close it out. But if anybody has questions, feel free to unmute yourself. I'll just give it like maybe 2 or 3 more minutes. If not, we'll shut it off. Anyone? Thank you guys so much for being on. I hope this helped you. You're not in the group. Phyllis, find me, Ashley, or Tracy on Facebook. And I'm Christina Taff. Write my name down and you should be able to find me, or Ashley Diet. Find us on Facebook and we will make sure you get access to the replay if you're not in Tracy's group. Okay. How can you join the group? I think if you guys are not part of Tracy's downline, then we can add you to the group, or we can send you the replay if we can't add you to the group. So yeah, find me on Facebook. All right, guys, thank you all so much. I hope you'll have a good rest of the day.